Greetings everyone, and welcome to another Warlord Games Epic ACW update. It's still a mouthful. So it's been a little bit since I posted, but I want to give an update of where I am with my project here. First going to start off by saying and warning again that I don't know how so many people do it. This has been out for a while now. What are we at, December? It's mid-February. I think it came out in November? I'd have to look at that. I don't even remember. It's been that long. Some of you guys have the starter sets completely done. I've seen images on Facebook, YouTube videos, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm not that quick of a painter. I've said many times before, I'm more of the gamer side than the hobbyer side, so this project's taken a little bit of a toll on me, and I've actually switched off to some other projects, some other things on my tables that we're doing for the club, so I'm not as far as I'd like to be with this project, as I'm only doing update 3, and it's a smaller update. But I wanted to get going because there seems to be a little bit of people that are actually following this and asking questions. So here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what I've gotten done since the last project. If you haven't watched those videos, go in and look. The last update was getting my Union demo army done as far as the infantry goes. I now have 8 regiments, 2 brigades, and got those all fully painted up for demoing at the local store. So I'm tidying up some last minute stuff for those brigades, command stands, some artillery, that kind of stuff, and then I'm starting to dive into the Confederates, which are taking a little bit longer because I want to have a little bit of uniqueness with them, but not go too wild and crazy, which we'll get into discussion when I get to that point. I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So let's switch the camera around and let's show you what I have done for update number 3. Alright, so first up in the update, I went through and completed 4 more Union artillery pieces. I'm sorry, 3 more, giving me a total of 4 from the original one I painted when I did the test painting. So I kept pretty basic with these guys. Did the standard, just uniform blue. The only thing I added different was I did add some, and they're kind of hard to see, but I did add some artillery stripes to them. Did the red striping on the pants. I actually put some stripes on him as the NCO of the gun. Whether it's a corporal or a sergeant, can't tell because it's just a smudge of paint, but at least it looks good at this scale. But again, I kept the guns very basic to what I was looking for. So these painted up pretty quick. I know there's some people talking about the difficulty of how these things go together, and it is a bit difficult. What I've discovered with them is I paint them while they're on the sprue, 90% done, and then take them off as closely as I can, and then lightly try to kind of touch up and go from there. Again, for the size they are and how they look, usually works good. I might have to touch up a little bit, like where I trim the sprue or whatever off of them, but kind of get one guy glued in and set in, and then a little bit of glue, and kind of put it all together, and then I can glue in if I need to from the bottom to get them put together. But real quick and easy to do that. So I'm going to pose a couple questions throughout this video to you guys. I'm kind of curious of how you handle it. The first one is the actual guns. In the game, when you put a gun down, you can have batteries of different sizes, 4 to 6 gun batteries. That obviously give you different stats and all. And then, of course, from there, different size guns and all of that, which I'm not going to get into just yet. But so normally when you play the game, it's one artillery piece, and it's labeled as just a 4 to 6 gun battery. I like that idea, but with how much extra artillery you get, 1 per sprue, I've been toying around with the idea of having 1 model equal 2 guns. I keep shedding grass there, don't mind them. 1 model equal 2 guns. So if I have a 6 gun battery, I would have 3 on the table. If I have a 4 gun battery, I'd have 2 on the table. If it's a 3 gun, then just, 2 but off the center. So I like that because it gives you that fullness, and you can kind of look down easily and go, oh, what, there's 2 guns there, it's a 4 gun battery. The question I have is how the rules play when you have to have clear line of sight to be able to shoot. If I'm doing a 6 gun battery and using 3 models, is that going to mess up? Do I do it as I need that wide of a gap? Or should I play just off the center model, off the center base, is kind of that line of sight to that, and just say it's just because I want it to look good? I'm kind of curious to how you guys are all playing it. If you're just doing the one and done, if that's the case, we got a whole bunch of extra artillery pieces and it is what it is. Or are you kind of messing around with ideas of different things as well? Of course, most of this stuff, when I demo the game at the store, it's going to be by the book, but I'm just thinking like when I put together some bigger events and have people come in and play, if I want a little more thematic, how I want to do that. But in the meantime, there we go. So now I'm up to 4 Union artillery pieces. I'll do the same once I get done with the Confederate stuff and start working their pieces. I'll probably build off of 4 and then just do it one gun at a time. But as I get through that box, if I get ambitious and paint up the other ones, I may do it as each gun equals 2, giving me a 6-gun battery or a 4-gun battery. But I'm curious to see what you guys think. Post in the comments about that. So that is update number 1. Quick and easy, some artillery pieces. Update number 2 is my brigade commands for my 2 Union brigades that are already done. Obviously, you get the one guy on a horse with the sword out as the brigade commanders. They look great, you know, they're decent models, but it gets a little monotonous after a while. And I have some other plans for them. I don't know if I talked about them. I'm actually going to try to convert some of those into cav to be base fillers for when I build cav, because and I usually don't try to complain about this too much, but with Warlord's price hike, a box of cavalry is now $72. I looked at that this morning and about threw up a little bit in my mouth. I've paid more for boxes of miniatures. The problem I have with paying that with the cavalry is the way they play for ACW and Black Powder is you're not making cavalry charges. You're not doing a whole lot. They're staying on the table as far as they're moving up to the position you want and then dismounting them. So to pay $72 for a box of that makes my stomach turn a little bit. I already have one box. So what my plan is to take the brigade officers you get with the box, the starter boxes, and on the sprues, and convert some of those over as fillers for cav, so I could stretch that cav box out instead of just having, I think it's what, 3 units at 4 bases. I can stretch that out a little bit, buy some other models for commands to mix in there as well. And if lucky, I think I figured out that I may be able to stretch that to actually get 6, I think it was, yeah, 6 units out of that one cavalry box to give me enough for each side. So I'm not spending $72 on something that's going to be on the table for a couple turns. That being said, rant over. So these brigade models here, so what I did to kind of model them up a little bit, these are Stone Mountain miniatures, which I've discussed them before. Still a little glossy in the photos. I'm going to have to hit them some more dull coat. Stone Mountain miniature, 15 mil. On horseback, the horses kind of match up pretty well with Warlord. Now I've noticed when I hold the infantry up to the guys, you can definitely tell these are 15 mil. Again, as command bases, I don't think it matters too much. Because again, these guys are going to be off on their own and they kind of look a little thematic. So we have the commander and then a guide on for those brigades. So real quick and easy, these guys come, when you bump Stone Mountain, the horses are separate than the actual infantry models, and you glue them on themselves, so it's kind of good to give you some customization, mix it up a little bit. You could buy a pack of generic commanders, and I've shown these in previous videos, but a pack of generic commanders you can use as both Union or Confederate, and then you can get guide-ons, mounted guide-ons that have keppies or soft caps. They come in 2 different packs, so you can buy a pack of each and mix them up if you want for a little bit. The initial one I just bought with keppies. I have purchased more from them, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. That I'm waiting for them to show up. So these are pretty good. I haven't gotten to paint a whole lot of horses in the past because of the games I played. I don't really have a lot of mounted. So I kept them kind of basic, but they turned out really well. They're a little glossy yet. I'm not sure I like that. I'll have to fix that. But painted up and good to go for my 2 brigades. So I'm going to talk a little bit about command bases while I'm here. So my plan on the table is for brigades, we're going to do these size bases with 2 guys on them. That'll denote my brigades. The army commander, I'm going to do on a bigger base and model probably 3 to 4 guys on that to make it look like couriers, guide-ons, that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna kind of model that up a little bit bigger. Again, The rules kind of even say you can model them how you want. When you measure distance, you measure actually from the center of the command. Most guys just measure the base. That's fine when they're about this size, but when you get into much bigger bases, I think that's a little cheesy, so you just measure off that guy, which is fine. But that's the plan with them. I also have an idea, and again, I'm curious to see what you guys think of this. Because of my rant earlier about flags, which I'm going to rant a little more about that here in a bit, I have obviously corps flags, divisional flags, brigade flags coming. I'll talk to that in a second. I like the idea, and I'm thinking of putting 2 guys to a base for the brigade commanders that stay with the brigades, putting 3 guys to a base for my divisional commander. So when I'm doing smaller demos, the army commander can just be the divisional commander, because if I don't have more than that, that's fine. But when I do these grand scale games and I put the corps commander on the table along with a couple divisions, I thought of doing a little bit in between size base between these when I'm thinking for the army command, putting 3 guys on it, putting the divisional flag on that, and having that on the table as well. Now the rules are your brigade commander, army commander, that's it. I was thinking of homebrewing something again when I'm running just fun events, that these guys obviously give the orders for the brigade size. The army commander, usually gives that extra roll. Having that divisional commander where if he's near the brigade commander who's giving a brigade order, he gets like a +1 or an extra reroll or something along those lines. I haven't quite figured out what I'd want to do. I'm curious to think what your guys' thoughts would, or what would work well without breaking the game too much and adding too much extra stuff. But I love how simplistic this game system is, but I also like the idea of having those guys on a table, and when you got to make that big push on that right flank, of having that corps commander or that divisional commander over there giving a little bit of an extra buffer. So I'm curious to think of what you guys think about that. So what I want to talk about a little bit here is flags real quick. Again, rant about flags. Obviously these guys don't have flags on them yet. I have purchased, let's see, where did I purchase from? Stone Mountain Miniatures. So obviously you get the flag sheets that come with the starter boxes and the box of infantry, and they're great for the regimental size. I purchased from Stone Mountain Miniatures 15mm flag sheets for 6 Corps, which is what I'm building, and some more PA regimental flags, some Massachusetts regimental flags, some more flags that I would need to fluff out what I'm doing. The Corps, the Corps flag sheet I got is great because it has the 6 Corps flags and it has all the divisional flags, but it didn't come with brigade flags. A little bit bummed about that. I was thinking of making my own, but I put a call out to fellow gamers on the Black Powder, I think on the Warlord Games Epic Facebook page, specifically about that, about if anyone knew some companies. And it's one thing I love about this community is they're a great group of people. They're always super helpful on the page. They directed me to GMB Designs, which actually have specific sheets for the Corps that break it all the way down to the brigade. So I have purchased those. They're en route, hopefully. I love supporting small mom and pop style companies, but then my OCD kicks in about tracking, and I go crazy because I purchase the order, I get the receipt saying got it, we'll ship it, and then I don't hear anything back. So it's been a couple weeks. It hasn't been that long, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm losing track of days here. But they're on their way, so I'll actually have brigade flags to put on these. And then I'll have some extra 6 Corps flags, even though I bought them from Stone Mountain. I kind of want to pair them up and see how we're looking with each. So that's the story with these. The brigade flags are coming. Talking flags, it's funny because I'm kind of being hardcore about the flags, but not about the actual uniforms for each regiment and brigade, which I know some people are doing some amazing jobs, some research of right down to the uniform they wore, depending on the time period they're looking for, and painting them that way. Awesome work to those out there that are doing that. Call it laziness, call it missed time management. I don't want to get that in depth, but I'm trying to get the flags right, at least, just so they look cool on the table and so I can kind of identify from a distance. I had posted about how I bought a whole bunch from Stone Mountain Miniatures. They're great flags. But if we remember talking, and I didn't bring any down to show, but when I was doing the Union, go back to my other videos, the Stone Mountain 15 mil flags on the actual infantry bases are a bit big on the infantry flagpoles. I know how to do some trimming, I had to make some work, and you can definitely tell the difference. These guys being 15 mil, the flagpole is bigger, so I shouldn't have any issue with any 15 mil flags that I've purchased, depending on what I do with these. When I get into showing the Confederate stuff, we'll talk a little bit about what flags I'm using for them and going from there, and kind of who I'm basing them around. But talking flags, so I've been going to Historical Miniature Gaming Society. HMGS hosts 3 conventions a year. If you're not familiar with them, they have a HMGS East, a South. I think they have a West, a North, like all over the United States. HMGS East hosts 3 events a year, one about every 4 months, and they have an amazing vendor hall. And I've been going for I don't know how many years to these conventions, 3 times a year. And of course, you always hit the vendor hall because you can get great deals. One of the booths that I've always passed up because I haven't had a need to go to, and now I do, is 6-sided simulations. So he specifically works with flag sheets, and I'm going to show you here in a minute. So as soon as the convention opened, as soon as the vendor hall opened, I ran to him first thing. I said, hey, here's my plight, here's what I'm trying to do. And we actually had an interesting discussion about how when he first started out, he did 610, I think he said 28, and I think 20 mil flags. But as these other game systems started coming out, he started doing all kinds of other stuff. So he has a great line of things. We joked about how right now he has 12.5 and he has 15 mil, and he's probably not going to be doing a 13.5 specifically for these. There's just no point. So I purchased some flags from him, which I'm going to show you here in a second. As he was boxing mine up or putting mine in an envelope, like 2 or 3 other people came up and were asking the same questions. So we kind of laughed and joked about that. But obviously I'm not the only one out there looking for expanded flag sheets, specifically at 13.5. So what I want to show you, I'm going to put these guys to the side for now. And let's zoom this out. He does these amazing flag sheets. I think it's like $10 for a sheet, and I'll zoom in and show you this kind of stuff. And they are, and right there, 6sided.com. Go visit him. Great stuff. 192 flags. At 30-point size for 12.5 millimeter. So he does 12.5 sheets. And these, I held them up to what you get in a box, and they're pretty close. We're talking a millimeter, guys, and as anal as I am about some things, that's not one of them. But some great flag sheets of all kinds of stuff. Now, the only issue and concern is you really kind of have to know what you're looking at or do some research because they're not labeled, which doesn't really matter. I know, like, especially down here when you get into all of these, depending on the year and theater and all that kind of stuff, it would matter a little bit. For those that don't care, you get a whole bunch of them. For those that do, you've probably already done the research to know what you get. So here's a Confederate sheet. And again, there's all kinds of really cool stuff on this. I'll mess with the camera a little bit more and show some scenes here in a second. And then the Union. And I want to show kind of, as you can see, there's a whole bunch here. And then here's the Union. So, flip it the right way. Here's the Union. These are awesome for the fact that, here we go, here's all the corps and divisional flags for those corps. Here's your command guidons for those corps, all the way up to 26th Corps, or 25th Corps with the Confederate, or the Cav, I cannot talk today. And then a whole bunch in here. Now, I don't know if it can be seen a little bit, these are a little bit flecked. You can kind of see like in there a little bit. So a little bit rough on some of the prints over here too. But again, at that scale, we can make work. It may have just been a fluke when this one was printed and he didn't notice it when he grabbed it to me. And I didn't notice it when he put them in the envelope, so it's okay. But all kinds of flags. So between these, between what I've ordered for GMB Designs, which I wanted to show those off, but obviously they're not here yet. I recommend checking out their site if you're not familiar with them. They're $4 or $5 for a sheet of, I think, like 10 flags or something like that is what the website said. I wish the website's laid out nicely, but a lot of the flags, when you click on them, there isn't images of them, which bothers me a little bit, especially with flags. Like if you're gonna be selling flags, post the image of what that one sheet looks like. It doesn't take that long to upload them. But they have a huge array of stuff on there. I was looking, they had hospital and steward flags. I mean, all kinds of really crazy stuff. So I bought the one sheet I needed. I'm going to take a look at them. I'm probably going to end up going back and buying more, depending how I like them. But between these, between what I bought with Stone Mountain, between GMB coming, I should be set. And you guys shouldn't hear me rant anymore about flags. The cool thing about these is they are actually on a little bit of like a stickier paper. So although you cut them down, they're actually a peel and stick. So they're not like the thin cardstock stuff that most flag sheets come on. So I'm curious to see how these go on, because if they're sticky on the back, like how sticky are they? Can you get that fold right? The cardstock are a little bit rough sometimes. Well, here I'll show you. I actually have one of my Union stands here with the these are the ones from Warlord Games. You know, they're a little rough sometimes with the fraying and cutting them and all, but once you cut them and you put that glue on them, they hold pretty well. You can kind of get that white glue in there and kind of bend and move and slide around as you need to until it dries to get it fit. I'm curious to how these end up working, if you still have that little bit of flexibility. I think he said there's something on his website that talks about how to put them on, but still cut them with a very sharp knife, peel them, and go from there. So I'm curious to see how these work. Again, being 12.5, I know I can use them on the 15 mil models that I'm getting, plus the actual Warlord stuff. And this will definitely flush out what I need. Of course, I'm probably going to end up building something weird that isn't on any of these sheets, and I'm going to just go crazy at that point and probably not care anymore. But this should get me started as what I need. So that's it, talking about flags. I promise I'm done for a little bit. Got these guys done. I'm happy with them. This is what I'm going to do moving on from my brigade guys. I bought more of these. I bought like a pack of each just to give them a try from Stone Mountain. And now that I bought them and I know I like them, I went and purchased more when I had to purchase some more flags I think I purchased from them. So I got another order of stuff coming from them, which again, love purchasing from small businesses. My understanding is like one guy that kind of runs most of Stone Mountain Miniatures. And so it takes a little bit for him to get this stuff. But that's okay, because as I said in the beginning of this video, I am so backlogged that if I have to wait a couple months to put a flag on, I'm okay with that. So that's that. Now, to the meat and potatoes, and small meat and potatoes, because I haven't gotten a whole lot done here. But we're going to try to zoom out again. Don't mind the camera work. We're going to talk about what I've gotten done for the Confederates. Now, when I first started this project and started painting the Union, I said that I was going to paint out of the Warlord Games, or I'm sorry, the Warlord Games Illustrated magazine catalog as far as paint schemes. This is, I'm looking at upside down, January 2021. God, has it been that long since they announced this stuff? A year ago? Dear Lord, I need to get painting. Okay, January 2021, they posted an article in here about how to paint this stuff up. Don't mind Cad Bane, he was a bookmark from another project I was working on. On kind of some basic stuff, and I had the first video I talked about how I painted off of this. So, since I painted the first Union I did that way, I wanted to paint the first Confederate I did that way. So what I'm going to show you here is kind of based off of their painting guides, with a few small tweaks at my level, just because of what I learned from the first time I painted the Union. So I know you can buy back orders from Warlord Games and other places at times. If you can find this one to get when you're looking at this project, it may be worth it, especially if you have no idea where to start. Now, most of us, when we were starting with this book and starting painting these things, they gave you a sprue with it, and the models nothing else was out for this yet. Everything was pre-order at that time. So none of us had any idea kind of what we were doing, except for those who had painted ACW before at different scales. So this was a great help. Now there's some amazing YouTube videos out there. There's some amazing websites. Check into the Facebook page. The guys have some great painting guides. So if you can find this as a back order item or still in stock somewhere, purchase it. I think it's worth it for what you get with them. They're probably gonna be hard to find because a lot of people were buying these up really quick just so they could get those extra sprues. before the stuff came out. But definitely worth it if you can still find it somewhere if you're looking for an interesting article on these when they first came out. So let's get into, let me get these laid out and get the camera going. So as I discussed in the first or the second video when I got everything done, I was going to 3 bases for each regiment, as most people are doing from what I've seen. And I'm also doing it as far as the same color scheme. There we go. The same color scheme for 2 regiments at a time. The plan for that is, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. I can run these as most people are running right now as we're going. 10 years down the road, when I have everything all painted up and we want to do some bigger games, I can remove a base. I could put these in and do 5 stands as the book says, and they're all painted the same. That is the concept behind why I'm painting only 2 regiments at a time. Batch painting is great. When you're doing a union, I think it's a little easier because the uniforms are all pretty well the same. When we're getting into these and you're starting to get into different paint schemes, I think doing 2 at a time works well. Gets done at least 2 regiments, and it's not a daunting task like it was before. So, my Confederates are starting to come together, slowly. They're a little outnumbered right now. So what I did with these is I followed the paint scheme, and of course I pull up the one right away that has a broken weapon to show you. So don't mind the bent rifle. He tripped and fell into the mud. So we're gonna pull it, put that back in there, and there we go. I glued it back together. You won't notice it at this eyes on a table, and of course it's the first one I pull for the camera. So here are the Confederates painted up. Sorry for my camera work. I'm doing this upside down at an angle, so it's easier to set up and so you guys can see what's going on. I painted these up as far as the book kind of says, with some changes. So it says to use Talisar blue, which is the same blue you use for the Union, and it said to dilute it with, I think, apothecary white. So I did that. I diluted. I even put some medium in there. The pants still came out a little bluer than I would like. There was some discussion about that when I first posted these on the Facebook page about, hey, don't do that much blue. You know, the Confederates didn't really wear that much blue. They didn't like wearing it because of the Union wearing blue. So they wanted to stand out. Which in the beginning, obviously, we know the story of First Battle of Manassas, where Confederate uniforms were still very close to the Union because of the depots they were pulling it from, and the confusion of the Confederates crashing into the Union line with them holding fire because they didn't realize they were Confederates. So obviously building 1863, I can't really use that excuse. They were getting at one point uniforms and I shouldn't say uniforms, but wool and dyes from the UK, from England, that was called, I think, English blue. Obviously, as the blockades cracked down, they started getting away from that. So, all that being said, it's a little bluer than I'd like. Again, this is off the magazine. I may do some light blues mixed in some other Confederates regiments that I'm painting, but I won't do a full regiment in that. The next thing is, and I keep showing the back because it's a little easier to see, the gray. So, I had primed these in Games Workshop Gray Seer Gray because it's good for the contrast paints. The problem with that is then in the book it says to use apothecary white for the jackets, the tops. The problem with that is when I actually started doing that, you could not see any difference between the primer and what I had just painted on. So I ended up, there's a gray, and unfortunately I can't remember the name of it. It's a Games Workshop gray that I used for the uniforms, and again, it was so close to the primer we couldn't end up seeing it. But where it helped is once I did all the accoutrements, the leathers, the blankets, the canteens, all that stuff, if I had to go back and do any touch-up work, I could use that gray and it blended in pretty well. It was a little lighter than I thought, and I was worried about it. Pull up another one here. And I was worried about it at first of, is it going to look like they have bright blue pants and white jackets? But once I put the I think I used Agrax Earthshade. Dear God, my rifles are all breaking, and I don't know why, because that's the one I just picked up and put down. Alright. So, I think I used Agrax Earthshade to put the shading on them. it came out with a good color gray, so I'm kind of happy with how they came out. I actually went through and painted brims these times on the kepis, black hats. The blanket rolls I used, I used 2 different colors. I had like a gray and then I had like a brown. So I kind of mixed it up with them a little bit. The canteens I actually did all in brown for wooden canteens. Just because that's, in my opinion, that's how they're modeled. They're the big kind of chunkier canteens, which would have been the wooden canteens. I used white straps on the canteens because, again, a lot of times they either used like a cloth or a canvas, or they would have the black leather straps that the Union were issued. So I mixed them up a little bit. So I'm kind of happy with how they turned out. I got to really do something about these rifles. I don't know why they're breaking on me. Anyway, so the command bases, again, kept things pretty simple as far as how I painted them up. I did use, these are the Warlord Games flags that you get with this box. I did both of them as Virginia, and I'll explain that here in a little bit as far as what I'm doing. But same type of color scheme on them, and I'll have some pictures at the end of the actual regiments posted up here. But again, I'm very happy for a quicker paint job. I'm pretty happy with how these guys turned out. The gray ended up turning out well with them. Again, the blue's a little too bright blue, but for 2 units on the table, I think they'll look good. And yeah, so there's that one. Here's this command stand. I try to mix up the drums a little bit. Again, both Virginia flags. But pretty happy with how they turned out. Okay, so the final thing I'm going to talk about is the flags that I put on and what I'm looking to do. So if you've watched my other videos, you know that I am building 6th Corps. Specifically, I'm building 6th Corps, 3rd Division, 3rd Brigade, because I was starting with there, I should say, because of the 93rd and the unit I reenact with, and then expanding out to 1st, 2nd, 3rd Brigade, you know, building out 3rd Division, and then from there all out to 6th Corps. So when it came time for the Confederates, I'm like, all right, well, what am I going to do as far as them? So if I'm building the 93rd at Gettysburg and kind of basing an entire army around that, why not do the same for the Confederates? Who do they oppose? So that's what I decided. I did some quick research, not as much in depth as I probably should, and I'm probably going to have to do a little bit more. Again, I'm kind of just toying around with the uniforms and all. Like the next 2 regiments I have on, I've mixed a little bit of butternut. I have some different colored grays, so I'm not really following, okay, I'm building this regiment, I should do this kind of uniform. Like some of you are, which again, kudos, that's awesome. I'm not going into that much detail, but I just want to kind of at least build and represent the regiments as best as I can without getting into that much detail. So in doing that, I quick did some look to see who kind of opposed the 93rd, and that would have been Wolford's brigade that came through the wheat field and ended up pushing up through just to the side of Little Round Top where the 93rd was at the Farnsworth House, and kind of stopped there. There wasn't a whole lot of action. There were some casualties and stuff and some exchange of gunfire, but not a whole lot of action. That's just kind of where the lines held. So I decided to kind of look at Wolford's brigade and build out from there. So doing some quick research, Wolford's brigade was part of 1st Division, which was McLaws' division, of 1st Corps, which is Longstreet, of the Army of Northern Virginia. So that's what I'm going to start working on. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start Wolford's brigade with the regiments that were in there, which was the 16th, 18th, and 24th Georgia, and there's also Cobb's Legion and Phillips Legion, which my history is a little shaky, but if I remember, they were kind of a mixed bag of, they had some infantry, artillery, they were mixed companies, that kind of stuff. So I got to do some more research on them. That being said, they were all Georgians. So from there, I'm like, well, I already put Virginia flags on these. Army of Northern Virginia, there's got to be some Virginians, right? So I'm going to end up building out Wolford's brigade, and then I will end up doing within, let me start there. So within McLaw's division, then where Wolford's brigade was, there was Seam's brigade, which was mainly Georgians. There was Barksdale's, which was mainly Mississippi, and there was Kershaw's, which were mainly South Carolina. So I'm like, oh, all right. So I don't even have anything within in that division the division I can look at. But second division was Pickett's. Third division was Hood's. So second division, when I get into actually building that, which was Pickett's, they had obviously Virginia boys. So these guys will end up being part of that division once I get into it and picking out a regiment that they're going to be within there. So, that being said, with the whole story of all the flags, I need to start looking at Georgia flags and Mississippi and South Carolina and seeing what I have in there, because I may be purchasing more actual flags when it comes time for that. We'll have to see. Again, that's going to be a whole other thing. So that's what I'm going to base these off of. And again, the second batch of regiments I have on there, I'm mixing up a little bit. I don't want to get too crazy. I love the look of mixed units as far as like the different uniforms and all. It's kind of more of like a reenactorism that wasn't as widely spread as you kind of see a lot nowadays. So I'm trying to somewhat keep it under check. But I'm not going to go into and look as far as the legions and everything, what they're wearing, and trying to find specific flags for the regiments may be a little tough. But this at least gets me here. So that's kind of it. That's where I'm going to wrap the video. I've rambled long enough. I'm kind of curious again to see you guys' thoughts on the artillery, on the idea of the bases, for the commands, to see where that kind of takes stuff. And my next update probably won't be until I actually complete the other 6 regiments. So again, it's going to be a little longer. I actually have the next 2 regiments are almost done on the table up there. It took a little while to post this video because I was sick for like the past month and a half. You can still kind of hear a little bit of my voice, so I didn't want to be coughing and hacking in the video the whole time, so I prolonged this a little bit. So the next one will be the next 6 regiments to flush out my demo army for the Confederates. And then I'm going to do the same thing like I did in this video, where I'll start to look at the command stands, the artillery, go from there. From there, I'm probably going to do, I have a box of skirmishers, a box of dismounted cav, and the cav. I'm probably going to do a little bit of those, because my goal eventually, I'd love to say come spring, but is to do demos with 2 brigades, 4 regiments each, with some artillery and some skirmishers and stuff, dismounted cav on the table to start demoing at the local store, so I can actually get this on the table and hopefully get some more people interested. I know the Waterloo stuff just came out. One of the game stores about 45 minutes from here. A couple of the guys bought into that. I probably will not, simply because I still have like 2,000 of these guys up there to paint. So I'm probably going to try to do my best to stay away from Waterloo. Now, if they come out with American Revolution, I may have trouble staying away. If they come out with Hail Caesar in this scale, hint hint, if anyone from Warlord is listening, which, you know, highly doubt, hint hint, Hail Caesar in this scale would be amazing. I love Hail Caesar, but at that scale, 28mm, that many miles on the table, it's a little ridiculous. You put it in this scale, I'm all in. Well, that's a whole nother video series, you know, 10 years down the road when I actually get to painting them. So, that's it. I've rambled long enough. I hope you guys like. Please comment. Please let me know where you are with your projects. What else you have going on, that kind of stuff. Obligatory, like the page, or subscribe to the page, like the video, comments, all that kind of stuff. And hopefully I will be seeing you guys back in a little bit with some more on the table. Until then, happy gaming.